Look around you right now. The chair you're sitting in, the ceiling above your head, the breath moving in and out of your chest without you even trying. It all feels normal. It feels like it has always been this way. It hasn't. Rewind this planet far enough, and this exact spot where you're sitting would kill you instantly. Not slowly, instantly. No air, no ground, just a glowing ocean of liquid rock under a sky the color of fire. Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and for more than 99% of that time, nothing like you existed here, not even close. Your brain genuinely cannot hold a number like 4.5 billion years. So let's make it real. Imagine a massive stadium, every seat, every aisle, every corner, packed completely full of popcorn. Now imagine that all of that popcorn represents the entire history of Earth. Every war, every ocean, every dinosaur, every volcano, all of it. In that entire stadium of popcorn, all of human history, every pharaoh, every empire, every person who ever lived, would equal one single kernel. One, near the very top. We are not the story. We are the footnote at the bottom of the last page. So what was actually here before us? Let's go back, all the way back, to the very beginning. The very first Earth was nothing like the one you know. The entire surface was a global ocean of lava. No continents, no ocean water, no moon in the sky. Then something incredible happened. A planet roughly the size of Mars, scientists call it Theia, smashed into the young Earth at full speed. The explosion was so massive it sprayed billions of tons of rock into space. Over millions of years, that debris slowly clumped together in orbit and became the moon. That same collision knocked Earth sideways by about 23 degrees. That small tilt, that is the entire reason we have seasons: summer, winter, autumn, spring. All of it came from one cosmic crash. Without that impact, Earth would have been a perfectly upright, seasonless rock. Life as we know it almost certainly never happens. Day one, and we were already one lucky bounce away from never existing. Once the lava cooled and the first oceans formed, life appeared. But you would never have called it life if you saw it. For the next 2 billion years, this planet was ruled by things too small to see with your naked eye. Single-celled microbes, invisible specks of slime covering the entire Earth. No plants, no animals, no faces, nothing with a heartbeat. Just microscopic creatures doing their thing across every ocean, every rock, every surface on the planet. And do not make the mistake of calling them primitive. These microbes ruled Earth longer than every plant, every animal, and every dinosaur that ever lived, combined. If you breathed the air back then, you would drop dead immediately. Zero oxygen, not a trace. But then, those tiny microbes did something that almost ended everything. Some of them learned to eat sunlight. We call it photosynthesis, and photosynthesis produces a waste gas, oxygen. To you, oxygen is life itself. To almost everything alive on Earth at that moment, it was deadly poison. As oxygen flooded the atmosphere, it killed off enormous amounts of life that couldn't survive it. Geologists call this the Great Oxidation Event, which is a very calm, professional name for one of the largest mass die-offs this planet has ever seen. But that same oxygen did something else. It stripped away the gases trapping the planet's heat, and without that warmth, the entire Earth froze, pole to pole, wall to wall. One giant snowball spinning through space. The air in your lungs right now is the leftover from that catastrophe. Life survived under the ice, barely, clinging on in tiny pockets of liquid water deep below the frozen surface. For over 1 billion years after that, the biggest living thing on Earth was still microscopic. And then, around 540 million years ago, something snapped. Scientists call it the Cambrian Explosion. In a relatively short burst of time, life suddenly went from invisible specks to creatures you could actually see, touch, run away from. The oceans exploded with weird, wild, impossible-looking animals, things with too many legs, eyes on stalks, shells, claws, armored bodies. A whole new world assembled itself almost overnight in geological time. Then plants crept up onto bare rock, built the first soil. Then fish in shallow water slowly, over millions of years, grew legs. And the first animals hauled themselves up onto dry land for the very first time. Forests rose. Massive swamps spread across entire continents. The coal we dig out of the ground and burn for electricity today, that's the buried, compressed remains of those exact forests. After 4 billion years of fire, ice, and poison gas, Earth was finally green and alive, teeming with life. And then it got terrifying. Picture Earth around 260 million years ago. No dinosaurs yet, not even one. And then came the worst day in the history of life on Earth. 252 million years ago, the ground in what is now Siberia tore open. Not for a day, not for a year. For hundreds of thousands of years, volcanoes poured lava across an area the size of Western Europe. The carbon dioxide they pumped into the atmosphere was unimaginable. The whole planet cooked. The oceans heated up until they were practically warm bathwater. The oxygen in the seas disappeared. Life in the water began to suffocate. When it finally ended, 9 out of every 10 species on Earth were gone. Every 10 animals you can picture, 9 of them wiped out. Geologists call this the Great Dying. Not the Great Extinction, the Great Dying, because that name is the only one that really fits. Life did not bounce back in a few years. It did not recover quickly. The world stayed broken and empty for millions of years. Earth came within a hair of becoming a dead planet, permanently. Recovery came in the strangest possible form: rain. Starting around 234 million years ago, the skies opened up and simply did not stop. For roughly 2 million years, the world was drenched in almost constant storms. A planet that had been hot and bone dry transformed into something wet and wild. And in that strange new world, a group of animals that had been completely unimportant background creatures got their moment. Dinosaurs. At the start of all that rain, dinosaurs made up maybe 5% of land animals. Just minor players. Nobody was paying attention to them. By the time the rain stopped, they were over 90% of everything on land. The rain didn't just fill the rivers. It handed the entire planet to the dinosaurs, and they held on to it for 150 million years. To put that in perspective, humans have been around for 300,000 years. Dinosaurs ruled for 500 times longer than that. And then, on what was probably a perfectly normal Tuesday, a rock 10 kilometers wide came out of nowhere. It hit what is now Mexico. The explosion was so powerful it instantly vaporized everything for hundreds of miles. Then it threw so much rock and ash into the sky that the sun essentially turned off. For months, possibly years. Without sunlight, plants died in the dark. Plant eaters starved. Meat eaters starved right behind them. The giants had absolutely no chance. But deep underground, in tunnels and burrows, small, terrified, furry little creatures had survived. They could eat almost anything. Seeds, insects, roots. They waited out the darkness. Those little survivors were mammals. Your ancestors. Here is the part worth really sitting with. If that asteroid misses by a fraction, the dinosaurs keep going. Those little mammals stay small and forgotten forever. You never happen. The single worst day in the history of large life on Earth is the entire reason you are alive right now. Those tiny survivors grew, branched out, evolved into every mammal alive today. Whales, elephants, horses, and eventually, us. Around 300,000 years ago, our species, Homo sapiens, finally appeared. But we were not alone. At that same moment, at least 4 other human species were walking this earth. Different kinds of people, as real as we are, with their own languages, their own tools, their own lives. Some of them had been here far longer than we had. Today, every single one of them is gone, and we are the last human species standing. We don't fully know why. Maybe we outcompeted them. Maybe we absorbed them. Maybe something else happened. What we do know is this: we are not the inevitable masters of this planet. We are the survivors of the survivors of the survivors. We are what happened to be left when everything else fell away. Look around your room one more time. Everything you see is sitting on top of a pile of disasters. A planet born from a collision. A world that froze solid. A catastrophe that erased 9 out of 10 species. A rock from space that ended the age of giants. Remove any single one of those, and the air never reaches your lungs. This moment never happens. Earth did not build itself for us. It ran for 4.5 billion years on lava and microbes and monsters and luck. We showed up in the last possible second. You are the survivor of every extinction that ever happened. Every catastrophe that should have ended things didn't quite finish the job. That's not nothing. That's everything. You were never the point. You are simply what was left standing. Like, subscribe, drop your favorite era below.